Hi, hey, I don't know if you guys can hear me. I'm trying to get on with my camera and I can't figure out what I'm doing
No, we
wrong
can hear
here.
you. We
You
got you.
can?
We got you. Yep.
Oh, yeah. How do I get my picture to come up?
There should be a camera to the camera button,
Above?
but
I have a camera, but it just turns toward me and then toward the other way. Sorry, you
well,
guys. Let me see. Hi, everybody.
no
Happy Aloha
worries.
Friday.
Hi, Tammy.
This is
So what's the
ridiculous.
news? What's latest on your deal?
Just met with my contractor. Um, just going over numbers. Uh, gonna go put in for my permit within the next 2 weeks. Yes. Ah!
Nice.
And walking it along one day at a time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got my estimate or what my costs are going to be for my post office boxes. That was a little bit more than I thought. It was going to cost
Oh, really?
yeah, I thought that I figured around 200,000 was a good guesstimate, but until I got the information from the post office, I didn't really have a clue. And now I'm looking at double that. So, but hey, it's just one of those things. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, do the numbers still work?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, just want
Yeah.
to spend more than I was supposed to, but it's all right.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
One of those little
And
slumps along the way.
yeah. That's the beautiful
$200,000
thing
slump.
about a deal that isn't just about the margins, because you have a bigger purpose behind it is to provide mail service to, I guess, thousands, right, of people
Yeah,
out in
yeah.
that area. And so and I think with that, the margins will be there, as long as you lead with something like that first. But you'll be fine. And what about the permitting process? How long are they expecting that to take?
Well, from what my real estate agent has told me, because she went to the planning department and asked them, and they said that being that this is something that is so needed by the communities, that they're willing to give me a special permit, and it should only take 3 months. And
Wow.
instead of a year, yeah. So, I mean, I'm at the mercy of the planning department at this point.
Mhm.
But, if it takes six, I have six. I mean, all I have now is time. I don't want to give it a
Yeah.
whole lot of time, but I'm hoping, I really hope I can break ground by May and then maybe have it finished in June or July, into July. That's what I'm shooting for,
So 2 months
so
for construction, and then how many months do you think till you're operating?
end of July.
End of July. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Is
Yeah.
wow.
this a the ground up, or are you just like refinishing like the building?
Ground up. Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah.
it's a pavilion though. It's not, I don't need any plumbing, no utilities. Um, all it is a pavilion. It's just concrete, cinder block pillars, a nice roof, solar panels, battery boxes for the solar panels and cameras, and then lighting for the evenings. But yeah, it's a very simple build. It's a rectangle. And that ADA, of course, an ADA disabilities, I have a wheelchair access, and then parking for that, and then getting my um, asphalt for going from the street to the pavilion. And I'm kind of hoping, I don't know, I have to talk to the planning department about this. I'm not sure if I have to do asphalt all the way around the building or around the pavilion. I'm hoping that I can just do rocks, just for the
Mm.
mere fact, really don't want to cover land. It's just that's just a thing for me, that I want to keep the land raw
Do you know
and
what the
rocks,
zoning is in
the
the county?
moisture going through and rain instead of running off. Do you know anything
Go
about
Tammy,
ahead,
this,
Joe.
Joe?
you may
Well,
ask the
Oh,
county if they have an impervious surface coverage area requirement. where
Okay.
they may tell you you have to have stone around the perimeter or stone. It depends on how much asphalt's being laid and how close you are to either a wetland delineation or a watershed. So just FYI, you'll get that information from the county. That won't be your asphalt guy. That'll be the county. And it's called
Yeah.
impervious surface coverage restrictions.
Oh, Dave, thank you so much. I'll write that
Sure.
down because, no, that was my question when I went to them was, you know, whether I have to do asphalt or if I could do concrete but I'd love to just be
Well,
able to do
yeah,
stone.
they have tiles too, where they'll give you, the county should give you credit. I don't know where
That's
you
so
are,
dope.
probably West Coast, but
Switch.
there's impervious surface, there's impervious like pavers and stuff like that, that the state gets grants for, and you get to buy it at a discounted rate as well, because you're kind of going green. If you've got solar, you know, see what kind of funding you can get. If there's some kind of state grant for that impervious surface coverage area, and then see what alternatives they have. And if it's
Oh.
going to be, you know, for children, I don't mean to turn.
Oh, lost you, Dave?
Oh, I think you just muted yourself, Dave. Oh, it's getting good too.
Yeah, I know.
He's on a roll too. We
Get up
lost
on
him
a
there
ladder.
for a second.
I've been there. I danced with this devil, so I might as well just share it with you for 5 minutes, right? Like, so they have surface area coverage that will allow water to percolate, still give enough substrate so people with wheelchairs. So now you can go after ADA groups that have funding and also environmental groups. Just a little word of advice. They get us in the Carolinas for that kind of stuff all the time.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm in Hawaii.
Oh,
So I
wow.
would,
That-
yeah, I'll definitely look into that.
Yeah, you should also be able to check. So like what Dave was saying, your best contact is going to be the county. So you can
Mhm.
find out, because they'll know right then and there, and they can look up the specific parcel. But if you want to do a little bit of background information, or in the future, if you're looking at a deal before, you know, you get into all of this, you can look up the county zoning ordinance, and generally they'll have that kind of information in there as well, depending on what the zoning is for the property. So if you look at the zoning, whatever your zoning is, open up the county ordinance, which you can just look up, you know, Honolulu County zoning ordinance, and then there's a list of codes there, and it'll tell you exactly like what the building requirements are, setbacks, you know, paving, kind of like that kind of stuff. So that's also a good resource in the future.
Okay, Joe, this is for the island of Hawaii, the big island.
Yeah, Hawaii.
Okay.
Yeah, so you should have it too.
So that would be under the Honolulu zoning ordinance also?
No, that would be under the
County, county.
Hawaii.
Okay,
Yeah, that's correct.
perfect. Hey, you guys, thank you. This is wonderful to connect with you guys.
And,
I
and
so
one last thing,
appreciate this.
and one last thing I would suggest too is, depending on your insurance and liability, I would also invite Boy Scout troops to come. They have to have so many hours of community service to put like riprap, maybe expand the wheelchair trail down to the water, depending on the pavilion. But there's some free labor out of that. Just use your Boy Scouts. They need the hours for service.
Oh, thank
Wow.
you. I will look into that. Definitely.
Great idea. That's awesome, Dave. Alex, you want to introduce?
Yeah,
Dave?
guys. So we have a special guest that's just joining us. Hopefully we're going to have him on and have him as the guest and the presenter for a call coming up here in the next few weeks. But Dave is a serious investor. The amount of deals he has is too many to even list. And if he tells you the number, it's even hard to believe, but he's the real deal. As you can tell, he's a wealth of knowledge, and he's here just to help share his knowledge with us. And I definitely think there's some opportunities for us all to work together in the future and, you know, learn from each other, because that's what this whole call is about. It's about us learning and growing together and utilizing people such as Dave or Corey or anyone on this call for that matter, because everyone has something to, you know, teach and benefit each other. And we're all here just to learn and grow together. So Dave, I just want to say thanks for, you know, jumping right in. And I've never heard that Boy Scout one, but I absolutely love it, man. All you gotta do is, you know, get some pizza and some lemonade, and those guys are going to be pumped because they got to get their hours in. And who as a kid didn't love a little hard labor, you know? So thank you for that. And feel free to please to give as much input as possible. And thank you for taking the time to join our call.
Oh, absolutely. And I know Kevin jumped on as well as Johnny. So, my builder developer's on this call as well. That's Kevin Ernest. He's the handsome guy with the gray hair.
Well, thank you guys for jumping on and just jumping right in there, providing value. Like that's what it's all about. This call was kind of just a huddle with our friends, and it was we did it after COVID, and we've been doing it every Friday ever since, pretty much every Friday ever since for the last 4 years now. So thank you guys. And Dave, yeah, we would love to have you guys on to talk about your story and what you're up to, because like Alex is saying, he's been telling me, right? But if you wanted to introduce yourself now briefly, like, we'll give you a turn after, because we definitely want to learn more, from you guys. But if you want a brief introduction, by all means.
Okay, if you don't mind, I'll introduce. I was associated with a deal finding software company based out of the East Coast, but we're US wide. It was called Connected Investors. It was one of the largest software off-market property finding deals. I was their business development and strategic partner developer. Kevin Ernest was the big brains behind the software, deal finding, kind of bringing the market together, and also privatelenders.com. That's where I met Kevin. Kevin and I are now teamed up. Kevin has brought this brilliant idea, and I'm not going to steal any of his steam away because he's done this in the past. Kevin has invited me to come on to help as kind of a senior consultant for the Real Property Group, kind of develop a platform of new home flips for investors. And we have a really neat bridge program. If you're experienced, we really want to invite Alexander and his team to fund y'all. I mean, you guys have worked with him, you know what kind of product he has. If you don't have the experience but have some capital and want to get into ground up and new home construction, Kevin and his team and our team have a product as well. So we wanted to JV with Alexander and his team. And anyway, so I'm working for Kevin now, and man, I'm so grateful every day to be working. I mean, if you think I've got a lot of deals, wait till you hear what this guy has. I mean, he truly is the guru, except he doesn't want any accolade. He doesn't want any of that nonsense. He's a wealth of knowledge. He's here to help everybody get better, sharper, without going on stage and trying to sell you a $1,400 package to dreamers. His dream is to help people, which is why we're offering this is to Alexander's team. And I'll flip it over to Kevin. Thanks, Alexander. Thanks, Corey.
Awesome. Love it, Dave.
Yeah, hey guys.
Hey, Kevin.
Yeah, I'm one of the guys that's paid the tuition over the years. I put my years in, and I do have 4,500 flips under my belt in 22 different states. I've raised over $500 million. Last year, I've been raising $50 billion. Our numbers got pretty high because we were tied into a lot of nonprofit access to the REO world. When that started drying up, we pivoted into the NPL, non-performing loan space. And we did a lot. We did hundreds of millions on that. And our numbers got crazy. We'd buy 200, 300, 400, 500 houses at a time. And we'd buy like just Chicago. And then we'd buy just, Philadelphia and parts of New Jersey and New York. And I'm over here in Knoxville, Tennessee, so not far from Joe. But we are Floridian, basically born in Texas, raised in Florida my whole life, son of a general contractor. We're private lenders ourselves. We've been doing that before there was any institutional money out there. We were hard money lenders. We were doing the no credit pull, 50%. We just want to know if, half of us loan to own. We didn't care if you paid us back. We did a lot of that. Like say the flips dried up and the REOs dried up. And being in the lending space, I've been pretty successful at that. And my secret really wasn't that I was that smart. Our terms were not that good. Our terms were horrible, in fact, at the time. But I helped kick off a company called DLP, Direct Lending Partner. It's DLP Capital now, but Don Winter and I are friends. I've been there, went there in the beginning when we were just kicking off the lending company. And really, I was a 7-figure earner there because I got deals for my guys. They would, and some of the women on the call can appreciate this. The male egos usually will dictate the size of the credit line that they ask for, So I'd ask a guy in New Jersey, hey, what are you looking for? And they'd always say, oh, $5 million. And then his buddy would say, well, if you're going to give him 5 million, you got to give me 10 million. Well, we charge for these lines of credit. So I was happy to do it. It was really a letter of exposure. And they'd pay a point for it. So a 10 million line of credit costs them $102,000. And the problem was I get those lines of credit. And back then I made really good commissions. We got half of that money because I don't think Don thought we could actually sell lines of credit to people. But I ran a bank up in New England for a while. So I knew that setting a credit facility up cost money. And so I thought we should charge for it. So, and then the guys would never use the line of credit, even though our terms were, horrible. Lending Home, now Kiavi, was 1.5 and 8.5, and we were like 5 and 15. And if you had the line of credit with us, we dropped to 2 and 12, which was horrible. So I brought the deals to the guys, and they weren't shopping me. A guy would get a 5 million line of credit, he'd use 500,000, and then those were all those. We got paid to loan money. And so I just said, no, I got to find deals for them. So all my sources for all the deals I've done, I started providing to them. We've even had people. We had a lady in Atlanta that was doing one deal a month. And at the end, when she retired, she had 85 loans out with us. So we were successful in lending because of the deal finding. All we did was just extend that. So what we're doing now, because you can't find any real value add out there, we pivoted into the new construction space. In 2019, I started trying it out. I couldn't get the numbers to work. We bought a bunch of lots all over the Southeast and sold them, said we can't do it. And since COVID, about October of 22, we started doing it again. And now we're doing it in Northport, Florida. We're going to build a couple hundred houses there. We're doing a little different, though. We're not just going to build them to sell. We're building them to build for investors. I go ahead and front the money to buy the land and go through the permit process, which takes 7 months there. I'm sure it's nothing compared to Hawaii, but Florida is very slow on your permit. So up here in Knoxville, we're building a dozen houses. I can get the permit in a week. And then we're just starting Greenville, South Carolina. We have three lots, 3 houses we're building down there, and much quicker. Everything's much quicker. The build times and all that. But yeah, that's what we do. We offer it to investors. So that's why we're on the call today, is to say, if you guys have any investors, we partner with lenders too, so they can provide the funding. If you have a person that's done a lot of flips that doesn't have the experience to get the funding for new construction, we do joint ventures where I use my credit facility, and it helps get people out of the flipping into the new construction, kind of graduate. Doesn't mean you have to stop flipping houses. This is a more predictable source of deals, and the returns are 20s, 30s, and 40s, pretty steady. We just charge fees, so it's a cost plus our fee. If we do the loan, we just do a hard money loan like normal. And then we like to be the broker and sell the property at the end. Not just for making money, full transparency, but we like to control the exit so that we don't have anybody with loose hands. I see Roderick's got 3 new investors in his back seat there.
Roger.
Never too soon to start. Man, yeah, that's my spiel. Sorry, I've never been known to not be able to talk. So with that, I'll hand it off.
No, yeah. Thank you guys so much, Kevin. That's awesome. And it sounds like you guys vertically integrated, maybe not by choice, but just how it happened, right? And that's to increase margins, of course, increase the bottom line, but also to control the process, right? And we've experienced that as well, and we know that it's never an easy ride, right? Like, it was bumpy. I mean, it still is, like every now and then, like it's hard enough to start one company and have it survive, right?
Yeah. And Corey, what's really neat about what we're doing here is, I'm big into the RIAs, and RIA is always a good source of that's where I met Ross Hamilton. He owned Connected Investors.
Oh, yeah.
And Kevin and I helped him sell it to First American. He's worth a couple $100 million now, and Kevin and I are still plugging away, right? And we're doing, with the mindset of that new investor, we have a platform where if you all participate, everything is going to roll through Corey and Alexander on that funding. Even if they JV, we still keep everyone in there. But the thing that I like is this is an education. A lot of y'all are used to ripping up carpet that smells like cat pee and dirty toenails, right? This is brand new home. And here's the thing. A lot of the worry, especially a lot of y'all are on in the islands, right? You don't know what's going on the mainland. We've created a portal where you see everything every day. The contractor puts in photographs. Everything is listed from down to the ounce of paint, all the permits. We have these little turtles. You guys have the big sea turtles, right? We have these little turtles that are awesome on skewers, but you're not allowed to put them on skewers anymore, right? And so we have to relocate those things, and that costs. So we do all the due diligence for you. We educate you on the processes, but you get to watch. So if you want to become a new home builder, once you qualify for the funding in Hawaii, Alexander takes care of you. You know the processes. And the other advantage is Kevin has the buying power of a national home builder. So our rates of return are really high because we're just kind of trickling that down. We're not going to give a presentation today. We'll set up with y'all's team. If the interest is there, Kevin and I will come back and kind of lay it out. We want to make sure if we invite that, you know, we want to keep it in the family. So we'll have some sort of link specific to this group. So anyone that comes in, we reach back out to Alexander and Corey, let them know that y'all have reached out. I'll also give Alexander permission to give my email address and my phone number. So that if like this young lady has some questions, you guys, I have ridden a lot of bulls in my day, not as many as Kevin, but that's why we have the white beards, right? I'm a wealth of knowledge, and I think my karma is now to pass it on. So please feel free to call me at any level. But if you are interested in this, Alexander and I and Kevin will sit down and put a program specifically together for this group.
Thank you guys. Thanks, Dave. Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. I'm so
Thank you.
glad you guys came on. I know, you know, we'll have some plans, you know, to get you guys on here, tell, you know, even more of the stories and lessons, and we can all learn, you know, especially, you know, ground up development. It's a whole different space than house flipping, than, you know, syndications and rentals, you know, and that's the thing is, like, I think there's so many great, powerful strategies in real estate, right? And people kind of bounce from one to the other, but every single one has an importance to it and a certain way to do it. And you guys have cracked the code. You guys have done some big things, and we want to learn more. So appreciate you guys jumping on, hanging out with us. And I just want to say, you know, thank you and a big appreciation to our very own Alex. You know, Alexander, he's my brother, and he's got me to, you know, in rooms that I never expected to be in. Just right before our call, actually, we're on a pretty big call with a group that can align with the NPLA, which we're a part of. And I kind of never would expect to have that opportunity, you know, to be in a room like that and trying to coordinate an alliance between two powerful associations. And so I thank you, bro. Yeah, you know, and that's why we need each other. We play off each other's strengths. You know, I'm an introvert, and Alex, you know, he'll kick down any door, shake any hand, and be friends because he's a genuine person. And because of that, you know, we have Kevin and Dave, and so I appreciate you, brother. And with that, you know, we usually kick off our call with our leads, needs, and good deeds. So does anybody got anything they need? Any leads to pass along? If not, we can kind of just open mic, talk story. One thing I'm kind of very curious, and actually I want to ask maybe even Joe, Kevin, or Dave, or whoever, open mic, is your guys' thoughts on after the, you know, the last little announcement from the Fed and our current situation, you know, where we are in the environment here in the economy. What do you guys think? What do you think's gonna happen to the real estate side, commercial, single family?
Yeah, I can throw my old eyes
Please.
on here. I have a lot riding on it. I've gotten cycles right and I've got them wrong. I started in real estate when I was 17, so I got some of the early ones right. The last cycle I got wrong. I levered up really bad. I did a lot of deferred maintenance on. We had 973 rental properties between Houston and Orlando, and when you defer your maintenance and kick it down the curb, and then all of a sudden rents curb and economy crash, I was naive and I held on. So I track this a lot, being that I'm getting a little older. I really want to get this cycle right. I feel like we're halfway through this cycle. I sold a lot of stuff during COVID because I got scared. And being 53 years old, you don't want to be 60 and broke and trying to figure it out. So made tens of millions, lost tens of millions, and it sucks, and so I watch it really close, way too close, probably. I'm glued to it 24/7. I usually have CNBC on in the back. I just turned it off. I wait for anything real estate related. But I think the Fed, obviously, I think there's going to be upward pressure on inflation. I don't think we're out of the woods. I really don't. And I don't want to sound like I'm just repeating what everyone else's opinion is that you hear on TV, but if you study cycles, which is really, I've spent a lot of time, a master's in finance. I just became like an economics geek. And if you study cycles, the credit cycle is well overdue to be popped, right? We're in a credit bubble.
Yep.
There's no doubt. Nobody can argue that. We're 50, 60 years. The good news is these cycles, these things take a long time to build. And when they pop, they drop quick. So the correction is only a few years long. But I really feel like we're repeating a lot of the Roaring '20s and the Great Depression. I personally feel like, I don't want to depress everybody, but I personally feel by the end of these '20s, I think we have some real problems because we're in a business cycle that's halfway done. And the Fed and COVID and everything else has really made it the weird, exacerbated cycle. It's the weirdest cycle. I would say I've been in a lot of weird cycles because I was around raising .com money. I lived out in Southern California. So I've seen that weird cycle. And then I've seen these credit bubbles, little miniature ones pop. I think we have a big one that's going to pop. But I think right now, there's plenty of years to make money. I think between now and the next 3 years, we're just trying to make as much as we can. I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. I'm just running as fast and hard as I can. That's why every time we sell a handful of houses, I go pull 5 or 10 more permits. I'm trying to keep the gun loaded, just keep it going. We're doing Greenville, Knoxville, and South Florida just to try to diversify a little bit. We're about to go into Dave's neighborhood in Wilmington and then down in Myrtle Beach. So we're trying to spread out a little bit. That way we don't have, 200 houses in one neighborhood type of thing. But I'm watching, I think Fannie Mae said 5.8% by the end of the year. That's perfect timing for us because that's when our houses will be done. And I think when you get a 5 handle on the interest rates, I think you're going to be off to the races again. And you heard Powell just say that we're at the peak of our cycle as far as his rates and tightening. So he admits they're not going to go up anymore. I don't think March they're going to drop. There's a 39% chance that's not going to happen. I think they're going to hold pat. They want to see that inflation, that core PCE come down below. It's 2.9. They want to see it getting on its way towards 2. I don't think it'll ever hit 2, but I think that's where they want to see it. Super tight job market. This is the tightest job market I've ever seen in my life. In all my years, you're used to 5 and 6 being kind of full employment. When you start seeing 3% unemployment, it's super tight. I also think we need to change the way we measure unemployment. I think we have to change the way we measure inflation because a lot of our measurements were based on the Great Depression. They were based on measurements that meant something back then. So where I think things are going, I think we have between now and 2028 to make as much money as we can. And then from 2028 on, anybody says they can see further than that, they're smarter than me. But I think the next, 3 years, 4 years, you go as hard. And, that's what I like about real estate. You have to reinvent yourself every 5 years. I was a house flipper. I was a landlord. I've done a little bit of everything commercial. I've lent tons of money, just to see if deals make sense. Personal money, our own cash, not just brokering deals with lenders. But I would say, I feel like we're in a really good shape right now. I wouldn't want to be in office space, of course. That's gonna take some beatings. Coming from the banking world, I was part of the whole extend and pretend time period, where there's no way banks could admit what it was worth. They asked me to teach these courses for a while, which I did because it was stupid money to sit in my office and teach these courses on teaching commercial real estate agents how banking works and why they can't sell the property for what it's worth. They know it's only worth $3 million, but $5 million is owed. They can't write that down, or they have to, answer to the OCC or the state board, whatever their charter is. and they got to increase their reserve requirements. Right now, the Fed and everybody's trying to increase banks' reserve requirements right now. If you guys have seen that, and it's really kind of bad timing because right now you have commercial loans. I don't know if you saw New York Community Bank, it's a pretty big bank in Manhattan. They're talking about a $580 million problem. But I think you're going to see more of that. You're going to see more commercial have problems. I think you guys probably know this. A lot of the multifamily syndications. I was part of a lot of that funding, a lot of that stuff, or the value add. We would underwrite it with certain rent adjustments and appreciation. We also had the takeout financing was fine. Cap rates were still compressing. Now you have cap rates going up like crazy. Interest rates way too high. Rents are not keeping up. Their rents have leveled out. So I think you're going to see a lot of pain on syndicated deals that can't get their takeout. I personally know of a few $100 million worth of deals that, they can't go out and do a capital, another cash call because the takeout financing is not going to be there. The LTV is just compressed a lot. The lenders got real safe. So multifamily is going to have some issues. Office, that's kind of the obvious. Office is obviously going to get crushed. The peak people working at home during COVID in 2020 peaked at about 35%. We're back at 35% of people work from home. And I think that's got to do with the tight labor market. You want someone to come work for you, you'll hire someone from Hawaii or California, or you don't care. So, that's kind of where I see it. We could talk for hours about all the different nuances of it, but in general, I would be very bullish. Cash is everywhere. Deals are hard to find. So we're trying to fill that bottleneck. Not to go back to what we're doing, but we feel like the way we're going to make money is creating deal flow. Because there's tons of lenders out there that's become a total commodity, like you guys know. You have to offer perfect service and everything else, but when a lender could actually bring a deal, that's the tail wagging the dog. You're not waiting for your phone to ring. We're saying, no, here's deals. They're already vetted. They've already appraised. They're good investments with good, solid operators in cherry-picked cities too, right? So that's how we're doing it. We're trying to create niches like that. I mean, there's opportunities in office. There's retail. There's always opportunities, but it's like trying to catch a knife right now on some of those things. In single family, I truly believe we have a housing shortage. I personally, anecdotally, know so many people where the kids still live at home at 27 years old, and they really would rather be on their own. There's a great book I would read if anybody was out there. I finished it 6 months ago, and I tell everybody about it. It has a lot to do with America, and it's written by a guy that's kind of down the middle. He's more of a Democrat than a Republican, but The End of the World is Just the Beginning by Peter Zeihan. I would really read that. I read it in a weekend. I couldn't put it down. It was a big, thick book, but it really gives you a global perspective, and really population decreases is what our problem is going to be. It's not overpopulation like we all thought. It's actually a problem of not having enough people. Elon Musk said it the other day. He's like, we're not going to have enough people. China, Japan, a lot of these countries are in bad shape. They're going to see some really bad pressure. I'm old enough to remember when we were told Japan was going to take over the world in the 90s, and all of a sudden they collapsed all of a sudden. And I think the same thing's happening with China right now. I think they're going to have a lot of problems with their real estate. And that's a great book. I would read that. It tells you how lucky we are in the United States geographically, and all of the other things that we have. Is as much as people like to bash on the United States, this is the time where, just our waterways are unbelievable. Our natural resources are unbelievable. So great place to live and make money. So
wow, I want to read. I'm definitely going to check that out. Yeah.
And
thanks,
Corey,
Kevin.
I'd like to add, Kevin and I were talking yesterday afternoon late, and he goes, you know what? Because, I'm always looking to pick on the Fed, right? Since Ben Bernanke, and, I pick on him. And he said, as long as the Fed didn't go up or didn't go down, stable is good, right? Stable is good. Consistency is a good thing. So this is a great time. People still think they're Beverly Hillbillies. They have a little 2-bedroom shack, think they have mineral rights, oil, gold, all that. But the fact of the matter is there is a shortage of homes. Now, the cities that we pick, again, not to pick on us, but just for you islanders that don't know about the Southeast, it is a huge target for a demographic called the baby boomer. The baby boomer, there's 81 million of them. They have the largest disposable income. So they'll sell their houses in Jersey for $1 million and come down to the Carolinas and buy one for $7 million. right? So they're coming south. They're relocating to get into the lifestyle that we have in Hawaii, that I have in the Carolinas. I have to wear a wetsuit when I surf, but I still get to surf, right? So, I don't have Laird Hamilton in my backyard or, Makaha, but I have the Outer Banks. And the fact of the matter is, a lot of people are coming from the Northeast. So that being said, we have a great exit strategy for the investors who get involved with our investment opportunity in these new homes, because we control the end market. My specialty is resort plan community, single family homes for baby boomers. So I go down there and I educate the buyer's agents on why our homes, the 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 3-car, there's nothing like it in the town. And these buyer's agents have their people from New York, New Jersey, Chicago already in plan. So it's a pocket listing. So that being said, think like a firefighter. I'm not going to talk about our investment on this phone call. We've talked enough, but I want you all, when you get involved in real estate, think like a firefighter. A lot of times you don't ever go in the deal and come out the same way. You got to have an exit strategy, right? And with new home construction, with that 4-bedroom, 3-car garage, so that grandpa can have his workshop, or, Nana brings all of her Christmas gifts, or not gifts, but decorations, and she's got a shit ton of boxes in the
Hey,
garage,
Dave,
right?
you're pitching, man. He's such a good.
Oh,
He's
I don't need to pitch, but
he's
I'm
like a
saying
top. He's like a top sales guy. He can't stop
No,
pitching.
he's passionate.
I'm
That's
talking
what he
about
is.
baby boomers. I'm talking about baby boomers. They're crazy and they have income. So I know baby boomers want to go to Hawaii. So let's sell them some property in Hawaii. So you guys give me a list of what you have. We'll fly them out to Hawaii. We'll do a buy and fly program.
Yeah, I know exactly how you feel, Dave. I'm so passionate. Sometimes I get a little too much. And it's not too much, honestly. It's just
It's a
that's
great
what.
time though. Don't be
Yeah,
Anna,
like
tell me
Kevin
about
said,
you.
like three years. Like
Yeah,
we got
I mean,
3 years. I feel the same.
if you're new at this is a great time to get involved, because this is like the roller coaster on top of the hill, right? So Anna, you're going to have a good time. Welcome to real estate.
This is like extra innings, guys. If you like baseball, think of this as we just got an extra inning. This is overtime. We have an extra couple
Yeah.
years here, I think, and I'm not going to be. I keep an eye on it. I'm nervous, but I don't want to let this opportunity pass. So we're fully embracing it. I think, like I said, I think there's 3 or 4 years to go as hard and fast as you can. Towards the end of 3 years, I'd start looking and watching and listening for certain things. The signs are always there. The problem is it took me 3 cycles to know what the signs are now, and just being older. I always talk about older and wiser. I think it's almost older and lazier. You get a little lazy when you get old, and you don't want to do
That's
extra
true.
work twice. You want to get to the point of least resistance and the less friction to take care of your needs financially, or family and everything that you need. So anyway,
Yeah, no, I realized when COVID happened too, I was wrong. I thought there was no way the market's gonna hold, especially for Hawaii. As soon as they shut down travel, I was like, all right, that's it. Sell everything. We started pre-selling our developments, and man, I was wrong, and I realized, and what I learned coming out of that short stint, the little COVID cycle, the quick down.
don't fight the Fed. I learned, Corey,
exactly.
don't fight the Fed. What doesn't make
Yep.
sense sometimes, like it doesn't make sense, but it happens anyway. Like 2019, we're already due for a correction. We were due for a correction, but then
Yes.
COVID gave them the perfect reason to come in and hit reset. And you got both sides of the aisle. I mean, we're led politically is the whole problem is everything is led politically versus just let the free market happen. And we are I know Dave
Yep.
loves to talk about crypto and all that stuff, but the bottom line is we are controlled by the Fed. And I made a mistake in COVID fighting the Fed. I lost.
I did that too.
I made common sense picks in the stock market too that should have been logical, but they were illogical because the Fed had other ideas, and
No, absolutely. And so that was one big lesson I learned, is that yes, even though I understand the fundamentals, the game has changed, and now we have a player on the field that has a lot of influence that can actually sway the direction of where the game's going to be, going to go. And so I have to be aware now. So it's like, all right, I know the situation we're here in Hawaii. It's like, you shut down travel, we're done. That's small businesses, restaurants, hotels. That's our number one economic driver for our state. And you're going to stop that, and But when they did that, I was like, okay, there's no clear light. And I was just shocked because the market went the other way, just, so 2021, 2022, like
There's
was
a
pretty
great book.
crazy.
Somebody just asked in the comment about, hey, doesn't the Fed just always print money when it needs it? Well, there's all these theories about, modern monetary theory, MMT, is what America is. And a lot of, like Bernie Sanders, who was going to be their chief economic advisor, wrote a book on it. And I bought the book so that I could beat holes in it, right? So I'm like, this doesn't make sense. I'm an old school kind of guy. I believe gravity exists. I believe you think of the United States budget as your local budget. And MMT, modern monetary theorists, say, no, that's not how it works. It doesn't work that way. You don't, because the United States has a printing machine. It doesn't apply to us. And they've been right. Every time we overprint, now we're 35 trillion in debt and all this. And you usually hear old timers like me go, oh, the end's coming. Well, the biggest thing is the Fed. One thing everyone should hear, the Fed needs rates to go down because it's the credit card that they're using. Between the Fed and the Treasury, we're never supposed to work together like they do. Now they're buying each other's paper and stuff. And our credit card is 35 trillion now. And who sets the interest rate on that credit card is the Fed, right? And the Treasury needs them to keep going and keep buying this stuff. So the quantitative tightening and easing and all that stuff, that wasn't around 20 years ago. Like all these new, and there'll be a new creation coming up too. Like they'll always come up with some there's already been there's been $1 trillion off the books that has just been used for banks to use overnight and stuff that they figured they had to get another $1 trillion in liquidity for the banks. And I think the thing you got to remember is this year, I shouldn't say next year. I keep thinking about 2024. The interest on our debt is now approaching what it costs for our national defense, right? It's 600 or 700 billion just to pay our credit card bill. Well, we don't have it. We're in a $2 trillion deficit right now. So we're printing all that money. So it's almost like using your Citibank card to pay your Chase card right now, right? We're just begging, we're borrowing money off one to pay the interest on the other. And anyway, the Fed needs rates to go down. They just can't have this. And if you read this book on MMT, the plan sounds great, except for one thing. And they don't make a big deal about it, but it's inflation. Inflation wrecks MMT. So the money printing and all that quantitative easing and everything, that all ends as soon as you get inflation. The only way, and that's why Jerome Powell, I think, is doing a great job. He's got these politicians and all this noise, and then he has to actually make sure inflation is the devil. That's the killer. If we actually got a little bit of deflation or disinflation is what we've been getting, but if we actually had a little bit of pain, like a recession, that would be a really good thing for us. It almost let some of the pressure out of the bubble a little bit. And I think that's kind of where we're at right now. That's why I'm bullish for the next 2 or 3 years, is I feel like some air has been let out of the bubble. So it's not going to pop. You know what I mean? It's going to keep going inflated. But anyway.
That's the amazing thing about our economy, is how robust it is. Like, because honestly, what happened between COVID and then like post COVID, because oftentimes we talk about what happened during COVID, where there was a huge spike, and then there was a huge low, and then now we're kind of like at this middle point, where even like things like per capita, I read this study recently, per capita income is supposed to begin to increase after 2024. So it was high, and then it went down, and then it kind of stabilized. It's expected to be stabilized a little bit more in 2024, and then 2023 on, it's supposed to kind of continue to grow. But there's a lot of different indicators and things to think about. But the point is, when you put something, I mean, it's kind of like if you were to take a glass bottle and you heat it up, you superheat it, and then you pour it under cold water, it would shatter, and that's kind of what happened to our economy, and it should have. But it's actually impressive that we actually kind of made it. We kind of found a way to kind of cruise through what's happened. I mean, it had a lot of a lot of people under pressure, and there was a lot of painful adjustments that had to be made, whether it's in investors or even just if it's like a W-2 job or whatever, or companies having to lay people off and those things. But we've managed to kind of get through it, and we might actually be able to kind of get back up on the horse without the horse having to die and buy a new one, you know?
Yeah. Soft landing.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, Jerome Powell stuck to his word all the way through. Even like you said, Kevin, it's like people imagine the people in his ear, right? He must be
Yeah.
getting it from left, right, people with agendas.
Election year.
And yeah, election year. So
Yeah.
who knows how, it's always a wonder how is he gonna come out of this, right? And so far I'm impressed, like, because he's not just because of like it looks like they're balancing it out, but I'm impressed that he stuck to his word. And
Mhm.
he said 2% until 2%, and he did not stop cutting until like 2% was
Yeah.
in sight, and now it is in sight,
Yeah.
right? So
His legacy is going to be not, helicopter Bernanke. It's going to actually be, because I think Bernanke gave in a lot politically, and it was, helicopter Ben to the rescue always. And you need to let cycles happen. You can't always artificially manipulate cycles. As humans, we all have cycles, right? We got to not manipulate the cycles so much or you cause problems. But I feel pretty good about Powell and what he's done. And I would not want to have been him through this. Like that would have been rough.
no, absolutely. Everybody had opinions, right? But if I wouldn't want to traded for his
No.
job,
Yeah. Hey, did you guys know
Yeah.
that there's still trillions of dollars of money that is not spent yet in our stimulus? The one thing when people say, "Oh, don't you think we should have a recession?" I'm like, "Well, you can't hardly because there's so much money." The 8 to 10 trillion, however you want to measure it, a lot. There's trillions of dollars that haven't been spent yet, like an infrastructure bill and the we'll laugh and call it. I can't believe they called it the Inflation Reduction Act. I mean, it was crazy. You never spin your way out of inflation, but anyway, there are a few trillion dollars of money that's still going to be released over the next few years. That's going to create jobs. I don't know if you guys know, there's a major boom, especially in the Southeast, for manufacturing. We are doubling our manufacturing capacity right now. So, there's a rush to bring things back to repatriate. We want to start getting we want to decouple from China. That's what we're doing. We're decoupling a little bit at a time from China. But there's still trillions of dollars out there. So anybody says, "Oh, we're about to go through recession," I'm like, I don't think so. We're not going to have to get 6-7% unemployment, like Joe said. I think we're going to soft landing this thing out. But anyway, I've monopolized the conversation enough. I'm going to be quiet now.
No, this is great. Thank you, Kevin, for your input, and your experience means a lot, to all of us in the room. So, but yeah, if anybody has any insight, feel free to unmute. This is just kind of fire
I have
chat.
a question to just pick their brains since they're across the US.
Yeah.
What does a market look like after a natural disaster hits? Like how have you guys seen them recover since we're going through it and we're just like I feel so ignorant. I can't wrap my head around it.
It's really a good question for me. I don't mean to monopolize, but Florida has been hit with so many of these, and we always come out so good. So this time, where am I building? Right where Ian just hit, right? And 7 years before that, there was another hurricane. So people are like, they're leaving. What are you talking about? Everyone's leaving the southwest of Florida. They're leaving. What are you doing going down there building? I'm like, no. Whenever you have these natural disasters, so much money pours in, and it's not
Yeah.
fast. Like, I know you guys are hurting out there, but it will be overdone. You will get more money than you need. It might take 7 years, it might take 5 years, but when areas get hit, you don't want to be the first one in. But I can tell you, like, I waited a whole year before I started doing Southwest Florida because I wanted to make sure basic stuff was going to be okay. But it's gonna come back. I don't know why. It's some weird thing in Florida. I don't know if it's just the amount of money that gets kicked in from the insurance companies or the interest or whatever. But a state like Florida or Hawaii or California or all these where people want to go, I think always are going to, they don't make this real estate anymore. So I would say, I think it's going to be worth a lot more money than it was before it got hit. I personally think so. It really stimulates. It might take a while. They're saying 10 years to rebuild Fort Myers Beach. 10 years. It's already been 1.5 years, right, Dave? Or has it been 2 years? I can't remember. It's been a year and a half, 2 years. Yeah. So they're saying 7 years before, the city's rebuilt, you guys had that fire that just, so I personally would say hang in there, because that's going to be a gold mine, you know, over the next years. It's going to be aggravating how long it takes for the money to come. Like even down in Florida, there's a ton of people that don't have air conditioning right now because their air conditioning unit got flooded and they're still fighting with their insurance company. A lot of corruption. You're going to see a lot of corruption. The roofing companies have
Oh,
basically
yeah.
killed insurance in Florida. Half the money will get where it's supposed to get because of corruption. You know, when they bailed Puerto Rico out, same thing happened. Half the
Mhm.
money went to corruption and it didn't get to where it needed to be. That was a great opportunity when Puerto Rico got hit to jump in there, even though it got hit again and it was just a wreck. But, you know, I personally, I don't know about Hawaii. I've never been there, but I can tell you as far as Florida, every time we get zigzag with some hurricanes, our insurance goes wacky. But everyone pulls into the country from everywhere to do the construction work. They decide they like it. They live there. And you know, every city that grows, there's a support that needs to be around it. So the surrounding communities have to grow as well. Not just the rich $2 million homes or 10, I don't know what you guys, $5 million homes, but the guy with a $500,000 house down the street, he benefits. Like it just really just it just grow. I think you guys will see in the long run a great benefit from it, you know, and they'll have improved codes and they'll have better systems
Yeah.
and they'll have better stuff. Like us, we every time one of these hits, we get stricter standards. Like our houses are on the latest code that they just updated again. Is like our houses, we don't even build gables, by the way. Our houses are hips. If you ever look at a hurricane when it comes and it hits a town, it doesn't help with fire, obviously, but the houses are all fine. They might have a few shingles missing and that's it. So the insurance company, I've adapted, you know. I love the gables. I love all the fancy in it. No, we just build these really, they're nice houses, but they're hip roofs where wind can't get up under it. We have tons of all the strapping and all the extra stuff they make us do. We raise ours up. We bring in $20,000 worth of sand, even though we don't need to. They're not in flood zones. We go ahead and build our houses up really nice. So we don't want to have to deal with any of that stuff. But I don't know. I think national disasters, because we treasure our state so much, you know, if something happened in Minnesota, even we'd go there, or, you know, we would still, as Americans, go there and support it. And I think Hawaii is obviously gorgeous, you know, and it's a treasure, you know. So in America, by the way, you'll see when you read this book that I told you, we didn't go out there and conquer the world like we could have. We could have taken anybody after World War II. We didn't. We have Alaska that we bought from Russia, and we have Hawaii, and that's it. We could have kept going. We could have taken anybody we wanted at a time, and we didn't. And that's why I think what makes America so great. But, you know, Hawaii with Pearl Harbor, the history that's there and everything, I don't see any American not supporting anything that Hawaii needs to rebuild. And you want it, that's like fighting the Fed when they're printing money. You don't want to go against the rebuilding of that. Like that's going to be, it's going to be fantastic when it's done. You know, it's a tragedy, but I think it'll be a much better when it's done. But that's what I've seen in Florida since I'm 50. I've seen a lot of hurricanes, a lot of tornadoes. We've had seasons of fires too. We've had months where we had 14 days. I remember in 1998, we had like 14 days of over 100 degrees in June, and we had the worst fires ever. It jumped across all the highways, and it was crazy. You think you're worrying about hurricanes, and all of a sudden we got fires covering all the state of Florida, which is surrounded by water, ironically. But I would say lean into the areas. I started loaning money to people rebuilding in Fort Myers, down in Cape Coral, all those areas down there. And that's really what got me poking around and looking at buying and building houses there. So I would look for the opportunities. I can't help you in Hawaii because I just don't know anything about it. I know there's Big Island and then some little islands and so like that. It's really very ignorant when it comes to that part of the world. But
It's great. It's a great question too, Anna, because
Yeah, totally.
this is first time like Hawaii's gonna be going through something like this. You know, it's very culturally sensitive too, the people here with the
Oh, yeah.
land. And they're kind of wondering, you know, it's good to study other places, just like, you know, Florida, for example, is like
Yeah.
natural disasters happen all the time. Like, what can we learn from, you know, what you guys had to go through? And watching what happened in Lahaina and what is going on, you know, it's kind of going down that same road, right? The government gets involved, there's bureaucracy, there's people that want to help that are just not being let through, and there's people want control of it, especially a prestigious town like Lahaina, you know. So I think that's a great question, because we should learn, you know. And I guess one question to you guys, Kevin, Dave, maybe you know, when Katrina hit, right? In
Mhm.
I think it was '05, and now it's down in New Orleans, right? Like
Mhm.
the government, I think the government was giving big incentives for, you know, investors,
was,
developers,
yeah,
FEMA,
Mhm.
it was FEMA, yeah,
FEMA. Mhm.
to go down there. And so, and then that city came back pretty quick, you know, like a lot,
Mhm.
like everybody kind of band together. Now, the incentives I think were pretty good. I can't recall what they were, but perhaps it's something like that. Is that what happens in Florida when you guys get hit by, you know, something big, or anywhere, not just
There's
Florida?
no need for in Florida because the demand is so high. I've never seen where they give you incentives to rebuild.
Mhm.
You just have the insurance companies that have to settle. We have a thing called Citizens Insurance, which is the state run insurance. So anybody that buys insurance has to pay a little extra to fund Citizens. Citizens is in trouble now because of really it's the roofing scams that are going on. People way like in Orlando, my friends were all getting new roofs. And the roof was, you know, for me, I could roof the house for 12 grand. They were getting like 40 grand. And the roofing companies were just making out. They basically were partnering with attorneys and just causing all that problem. But they didn't have to give you any incentives in Florida. It's just the insurance money that comes and the displacement of people who are out without their house have to live in a different house. So it creates a housing shortage. What happens in areas that are depressed, and this is the sad part, this is what I would warn people in Hawaii, is you guys have a great culture that you need to protect, because when you get regentrification, it pushes out. So you'll have just all white people living there all of a sudden. You won't have any culture. And I think that's a lot of the neighborhoods. Some homes that were like $50,000 houses are now $1 million houses in New Orleans. We did a bunch of flips there. And you know, you look at New Orleans at 6 feet below sea level, right?
Mhm.
We're like, why would you build in a bowl? Like even rats know not to build their nest in a hole, right? But we keep doing it. And we keep rebuilding it, right? And New Orleans is going to be a treasure. Like think about it, guys. New Orleans just had a big rebuild a couple times, right? All the levees and the Army Corps of Engineers, everything's had to come in. But what do? We rebuild it every single time, knowing in another year or two we're going to have another problem and whatever. But I don't know. I look at it as you don't need incentives. I don't think you're going to have so much people trying to capitalize. I've already heard, you know, way over here in Florida and Tennessee where I live, all the people that are coming in there to scoop up that real estate and try to take advantage, you know. So I think the biggest caution would be careful, because there's historically black neighborhoods in New Orleans that are pure white, you know, yuppies and stuff now, right? Because they were investment opportunities, and there was flipping shows down in New Orleans, and they, you know, it's a great thing how America comes in, and that's capitalism. You got to love capitalism because it will fix problems, right? But it
Yeah,
also causes displacement, you know, and stuff like
yeah.
that. So if I was if I was out in Hawaii, the only thing I would watch out is that, you know, and I know you guys have already had it. I've already heard of companies coming in and bottom feeding, trying to pick up all the real estate and everything. But that's the only thing I'd be cautious of. But I don't think you're going to need any incentive programs. But I think you're right, though, Corey. I think there were lots of incentive programs. I don't know what they were, to be honest with you. I've never seen incentive programs in Florida, other than some of the nonprofit stuff I've been involved in, where they'll give you the house. Like we had 200 or 300 houses given to us at one point, and a lot of times I ended up having to demolish the house and donate the property to the city or the county or
Yeah.
whatever, because it was just not worth it. And I did those all over Florida and Georgia, and it was just, you know, the incentive was it's free, and it's like, you should have given me 30 grand to take this thing. It's cost me 20 grand to tear it down and clean it and give it to the city. But
Right.
then you get one that you put 10 grand in and you sell it for 150,000.
Right.
So, but yeah, I don't think you guys are going to have incentives there, but who knows? The federal government works pretty good, man. They'll come up with something, but I
Yeah.
personally don't think
There's
you
a
guys
lot
need
of
much.
money coming in from FEMA.
If
Like
you, Anna, if
they're
you go,
pumping.
Yeah, if you go to your local senator's website, if you go to the state site, and even your county commissioner, if you go in there, they will guide you, because if once FEMA gets involved, FEMA will have smaller contracts, right? And smaller incentives for the lesser fortunate, those who don't qualify. I mean, when a hurricane hit Wilmington, I went in there, kind of my pockets inside out with some lint in it, right? And played some value off of the incentive that FEMA had for Carolina. And I was putting that, reallocating that money into lesser fortunate neighborhoods, right? To where we did eventually see regentrification, unfortunately. But, so that's going to be your responsibility, though, Anna, as a young lady, to jump on the website for your city councilmen and women, your senator, your congressman, and ask for help. SBAs. If you don't ask for it, I mean, you just heard Kevin 10 minutes ago saying we have a supplement of money. We do. There's still money out there, free money from COVID stimulus, from the quantitative easement. People aren't asking. The government isn't going to call you going, hey, do you want some money? They normally call you going, hey, you owe us some money, right? So you have got to be active. Tammy, you got to roll down, get to know your local politicians, get to know your local bankers, build your network during this time of catastrophic events
Yeah.
so that you can rebound as being a core value to the community. And at that point, the Rolodex start to grow. So you do it for multiple reasons. One is for your neighborhood and your families and friends and your culture. But at the same time, a young lady like you can go down and become a very instrumental individual in your neighborhood and your community by inquiring and inspiring. Okay, so don't not just don't stop at FEMA. Go and shake hands and go to your local RIAs and talk to the influencers that are coming in there, right? And
SBA.
figure it out. You're the next generation. You're the next generation of success, Anna. So make it happen.
Love it.
Amen. Thank you, guys.
SBA loans are a good thing to look into also. I know a lot of friends that
Yeah.
they borrowed that money really cheap. It was easy to get, and they used that, and they even levered it up even more. So they got a couple $100,000 SBA loan that's not really a high interest loan or anything, and they can pay it back when they want. And it's, I mean, the closest thing government gave to just handing out free money was the PPP loans. Everybody could go get them. Like a lot of corruption in that, but the government really needed us to take that money and do something. Unfortunately, my partner was too conservative. He didn't want to take any of that money. But SBA loans, I can tell you, I'm impressed with. Like my own sister used an SBA loan to buy a rental property in a nice area of Central Florida, and I'm like, wow, why didn't I do that? It's like,
Yeah.
I've actually looked at SBA loans regulations recently, and they were saying that they don't approve SBA loans for real estate. Now, and I think that would be different if it has like a going concern to it, like if it was like a winery, for example, where there's a business component to it. But I don't know. Has that been changed since then, or is there?
This guy owned a bunch of, they own rentals. Both these parties I know own rentals already. So they borrowed the SBA. Now I didn't look at their application. I don't know, but I know they used it for real estate. So I don't think once you get the money, I think you use it for whatever you want. But they both had rental properties there. I think my sister has about 10 or 15, and this other guy I know has probably 5 or 10. And he bought one of the properties for me, and his down payment money was an SBA loan, and then he got a regular loan. So I was kind of impressed.
Yeah, SBA has an EIDL, which is like the economic stimulus, and then or economic, and then they have the property side of it. So if you had anything damaged structurally to a property, then there's an SBA loan for that.
Cool. Hey, Corey, you might want to hit the mute button on me and Kevin. We can talk for hours, but our point is we can dump this information.
I think it was great.
We want to give this information, and we used to work for a guru. Kevin gets paid $10,000. Well, he's been offered, and he declines it, to get on stage and talk, just like what we're doing. We get paid to do this. We don't want to take money. We just want to help. We want to build our network. Whether you guys get involved with us or we come out to Hawaii, we want to get involved and help you guys. We want to help.
We're the anti-gurus. We've been around enough gurus.
Us too.
When someone gives 50 grand to somebody to learn how to do a deal, I'm like, for 50 grand, I could have just done a deal with you and shown you how to do a deal, and it just makes me sad for these people that give half their life savings for their quote education, and it's on a cruise ship or it's on a, and I'm just like, oh, no offense to anybody that's done that. It's just, You just need to jump into a deal, you know? You could read enough books, jump into a deal and you know, or partner with a deal. Partner with somebody who's
Partner.
done some
No,
deals, you know?
you guys are real ones, and I appreciate you guys coming on. I think I speak for the room too. Like we appreciate the experience and the wealth of knowledge that you're willing to share with passion, you know, to fire us up because we need that. You know, and I look forward to bringing you guys on to really talk to dive in, you know, because I know we talked about what you guys have, but you have so much experience, right? Kevin and Dave, between the two of you. And I'm looking forward to that day we can bring you guys back on. So I really appreciate you guys jumping on. And like it didn't even feel like this hour went by so quick. So I appreciate you guys. We definitely have to, you know, do a round two. So
Oh,
but
that
thank you
wasn't
guys.
2 hours? We didn't burn up 2 hours of your time. Because we would.
I'm like that. I could go on for hours too. Like so.
All right, so
Yeah,
we'll stay
but-
on. Everybody that has to go. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate again, and thank you guys all for coming on and joining us another Friday. Hope you guys all have a great weekend, and we'll see you guys next week. Hello,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Hey,
Thanks,
anybody,
guys.
anybody need my info, just get it from
Go.
Alexander.
Yep, reach out to us if you guys want to get in contact with Kevin and Dave.
Yep.
Thank you
Thanks,
guys.
guys.
All right, guys.
Aloha,
Thank you.
happy Aloha Friday.
Well,
Aloha.
Aloha.